Hi friends, I'm Katie and welcome back to Phoenix Jewelry for another wire wrapping tutorial. First off, I just want to say huge shout out, huge thanks to everyone that took their time to help me choose which stone to wrap. And the winner is obviously this Teardrop Moonstone. So let's go ahead and measure and see what we're working with. It looks like it's about 3/4 of an inch long, and I think it's about a little less than half of an inch wide. So I like to measure this out to see kind of how much wire I might need to use, and also kind of gauge how wide I want to wrap my base. And you're going to see in a minute after I introduce the tools that we're going to be using today. But first, can we get a little commotion for the flashback in this moonstone? I love a moonstone that gives off like all this personality. It's so gorgeous. So let's get into the tools right now. So for my veil, I'm going to be using this micron pencil. I like this little tip right here. It gives me the perfect little circle for my veil, and at least I have something that is going to be standard. So I like using that. Of course, I have my trusty ruler to measure everything out. And for my base and my bail, or sorry, for my weaving wire, for my bail and the base of the frame, I'm going to be using 26 gauge wire. And then for my base wires for the frame, I'm going to be using my 20 gauge wire. And of course, the dynamic trio, I have my needle nose, my nylon pliers, and my wire cutters. So I went ahead and cut the wires that I'm going to use for the base for my frame. And I just have 3 pieces of the 20 gauge wire here, and they're measuring out at 12 inches. And I just want to show you guys, it's a little over 12 inches, but this is what I'm going to use to create that traditional frame that I introduced to you guys in one of my earlier videos. I'm going to go ahead and link it in the cards here just so you guys have reference back to that. But for now, I'm just going to straighten everything out so I have an easier time wrapping my weaving wire around that. And right here, I'm just finding the center point so I know where I want to start my weave. So because I've been wrapping for a little while, I have gotten used to wrapping with all 3 wires in my hand. But let me go ahead and show you guys how you would do it if you're struggling with holding all of them at the same time. You could just do it one by one. And so let me show you how to do that now. So I'm going to start out with the first wire in my hand, and I'm going to wrap about 2 times around. And this is just to start the weave off. I like to do this, and you'll see other people wrap a couple of times despite the weaving pattern they're using. They'll do a single wrap just for security to hold the ends of the weave tightly. So I'm just going to go ahead and wrap around the first wire, then introduce the second wire and wrap a couple times around that as well. So next I'm going to bring in the third wire, and as you can tell before, I wrapped twice around the first wire, then twice around the first and second wire. Now I'm going to wrap around the second and third wire. So second from the bottom and right around both of them, the second and third wire. And I'll show you a close-up, but I just want to also tell you kind of what I'm doing. Then to complete the weaving pattern, I'm going to wrap around all 3 wires 2 times. And I'm sorry, I'm just now noticing that my background is very distracting and it's actually making parts of the video blurry. So I do apologize for that, but I'll do my best to give you guys like some close-ups of the weave just so you can see what I'm doing. And throughout the video, you will see me bring in my pliers every once in a while. And I like to do this to keep my weaving pattern really nice and tight. The wire does have a tendency to kind of separate as you go and you weave along the base. But I like to do that, and I like to not only squeeze them together, but I also like to use my pliers to compress them down so they're flat. And you'll see me do that right here. I promise you, you'll have a nicer, neater weave if you kind of practice this. And I'm not pressing too hard because I don't want to break the wire, but I feel like it does help to keep the weaving pattern nice and neat. And I really like that process or that technique. So I'm just gonna go along and lengthen this weave out, just add some more wraps. And again, it's twice around the first wire, twice around the first and second wire, and then 2 times around the second and third, and then twice around all 3 of them. I'll do this slowly again, but then I'm gonna speed the video up just so I don't keep you guys watching the same thing over and over again. But don't be afraid to like pause and kind of, if you can, zoom in. But I'm hoping that you guys can see this pattern well. So here you can tell I'm just measuring the base of the stone in the widest part against the weaving pattern that I just created. I don't want it to hang too far over the sides. I just want it to perfectly sit under the stone. And so it's about 1/4 of an inch. Now that I have my weaving pattern completed, I'm just gonna go ahead and quickly take my nylon pliers and compress things down. Again, this for me is just about keeping the weaving pattern neat. And yeah, so I'm gonna do that and then moving to the next part of the video. So here I'm using the top of my ring mandrel. I realized that it is actually the same circumference as the bottom of my stone. So to get that circular shape at the bottom of the frame, I'm going to be using my ring mandrel to form that. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys that here. I'm finding the center point again, holding it close with my thumb to the ring mandrel. And I'm just going to wrap each side around. I'm not going to wrap it completely. I'm just going to wrap the base around so I can get that initial circular shape at the bottom. To start forming the rest of the frame, I'm going to hold the stone between my thumb and my middle finger, and I'm just going to start guiding the wire around the shape of the stone. I don't want to pull the wire or anything like that. I'm just gently guiding it around the shape of the stone so I can get that nice close fit. So the next thing I'm going to do is start off attaching these 6 wires that we now have off of the frame. And I'm just going to start on that bottom wire right there. I'm going to wrap around it a couple of times as I also fumble around. But I'm going to wrap a couple of times around this, and then I'm going to attempt to gather all 6 pieces of wire in one bundle with the same weaving wire. So just watch as I go along and you'll see what I'm talking about. Just a side note, I'm trying desperately to keep all my wires stacked on top of each other, so nothing is overlapping, and it can be a challenge. I'm not gonna lie, it can be a challenge, but once you get the hang of it and you kind of learn how to adjust things as you go, you should be fine. But right there you can see that all 3 wires are stacked on top of each other to the side, and then you have, from the front view, you have 2 rows of the wires going back. I hope I explained that correctly, but I'm just going to wrap around all 6 pieces of the wire about 4 to 6 times just to get that nice and secure. Then I'm going to bend my front wires forward, and then I'm going to move into doing that for the back wires as well. This part of the video again is blurred out, and I'm sorry about that, but what I'm doing is just bending those 2 front wires forward, and then I'm going to find the 2 back wires and bend those backwards so I can start wrapping on the center wires to create that veil that we're looking for. So all I'm doing here is bringing up the weaving wire from where I wrapped all 6 wires, and I'm bringing it up and wrapping from the bottom. You guys should be familiar with this weave. I'm just doing a simple 2-2 weave, which is 2 times around that bottom wire, and then you're going to see me wrap twice around both wires, and that is 1 rotation. And I usually like to do my bail for about an inch. This just helps me to stay consistent in how my bails look, and it doesn't matter which pattern I create. I usually try to keep my bails at about an inch, and yeah, sometimes it might be longer depending on the stone that I'm wrapping. If I have a larger stone, chances are I'll make a bigger bail, but that's very rare. So yeah, so just an inch on this weaving pattern, and then we'll go ahead and move into actually creating the circular shape for the bail. I'm going to actually fast forward through this because I'm pretty sure that you guys have caught on to how a 2-2 weave is created by now. So now it's time to make our bail, and you guys know the drill. I'm just going to bend this forward, bend the bail forward a little bit, and then find the center of it, and I'm just going to wrap it right over that black part of the micron pen, and I'm going actually between the 2 back wires, so those are sticking out to the side of that circular part of the bail. And at the base, when I get at the bottom there, I'm just going to squeeze it together so it sits against the back. So next I'm gonna shorten the wire ends off of the bail. It's gonna make it a little bit more manageable for me to insert it through the opening right here where the stone is gonna fit, and kind of wrap it on to the back part of the frame, which you'll see me do shortly. If it's difficult to see what I'm doing here, what I've done is just brought the wires backwards or towards the back, and now I'm just tucking it inside of the frame. Okay, so now that we have the bail completed and our stone still fits, I'm going to go ahead and move all of these wires, the 2 front wires and the 2 back wires, back into their original position. So as you can probably tell by now where I am, it's later in the day and I'm losing sunlight, so I'm chasing the sun at this point. But on the 2 back wires, I've already gone ahead and created single coils just to add some design flair to the bail. So I'm just starting at the very tip of this back wire, and I'm just showing you guys because I like using this technique to kind of get my coils nice and tight. And it's helpful to do it at the very tip of the wire versus the back or the base of the wire, because you might end up kind of bending the wire out of place. So I really like just starting here and then moving the wire into position where I want it. It's easy to do because it's just a single coil wrap that we're doing, but I'm going to go ahead and take my time and just wrap this side out. Now that I have the coil to the length that I need, I'm going to go ahead and slide that single weave down to the base of the frame of that back wire. So this is a good stopping point for part 1 of this video. Don't forget to join me next Friday for part 2. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and see you in the next one, guys.